It's Footlong Nation Appreciation, and Subway is thanking Footlong fans by giving away thousands of prizes every day, plus free Footlongs for life. Get your codes on 30-ounce drinks and Doritos Nacho Cheese Chips to play and win big. Subway, where winners eat.
The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
this is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
It might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the Sports Guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report. We're coming from Orlando, Florida, home of the NBA All-Star Weekend. Coming up in a little bit, we're going to have Hall of Famer and my dad's favorite player, Dave Cowens. But first, the guy who is helping to save the Los Angeles Clippers. That's right. Along with me and Joe House. Chris Paul, how are you?
Not too bad. Happy to be here.
Can you just tell us right out of the gate that you're signing an extension with the Clips through 2017?
I wish I
come
could.
On.
I wish I could. The NBA don't
You
allow
love
you
it.
to do that.
You love it in Los Angeles.
I do love it.
It's better than you thought, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially born and raised on the East Coast. I never thought that I would be that far away from home, but it is beautiful. The fans are amazing. My family loves it, and the organization has been great.
Good. So what were your do you feel like you had misconceptions going into this about the Clippers? Like what kind of organization it was? Or?
No, because I'm one of those people that believe I have to experience something for myself in order to make a judgment. I can't go by what guys say the Clippers were 15 years ago or 20 years ago, because I feel like I'm my own man.
Yeah.
And I tell Blake them all the time, we write our own history.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that was interesting. You showed up after, we'll talk about it, but one of the weirdest 3-week stretches I think any athlete's had. Exhibition game against the Lakers. I think you'd been on the team for what, 72 hours?
If that long.
Yeah. And you're already ordering everybody around. You're calling this guy, get over here. You're doing that. I'm like, I like this guy. He already took charge. Is that just a point guard thing? Like you've always had that since you were a kid?
Yeah, it's a point guard thing, and it's just that competitive nature. I don't care if it's preseason, if we playing for fun, just shooting around. I want to win, and like I said, I have to win. I just want to win. Right. And the guys that are on my team, we're together.
That game against the Lakers, right out of the box.
Oh, we went to that game, right?
We were at the game together.
There was an immediate LA tension.
Yeah.
It was good.
It was fun, too. It was fun because I'd be lying if I was to say you don't hear all the different stories about Lakers this, Lakers that. Everywhere I go, so many people come up to me and be like, man, we're happy to have you here in L.A. I wish you was with the Lakers. People do that. And they're not wrong for that. But like I keep saying, I'm so excited to be with the Clippers. The organization has been great, and this should be a lot of fun.
Well, for you, I look at it from a pure basketball situation. You could have gone to the Lakers, slow down team, not the type of players like on this Clipper team. You have two guys who just are at the rim all the time for you. It's like your dream scenario, right?
Exactly. And those two guys are amazing. Blake is Blake. He is just an unbelievable athlete, but he plays so hard. And I tell him all the time that I'm here to make your life easier,
right?
As much as possible, because he plays so hard every possession that I just want him to be able to save a little bit of that for the fourth quarter.
Well, we need to talk about this. This is important. I'm worried about Blake because he's flying toward the rim, and it's dude, we have a chance to win the title here. Like you gotta save your body a little bit, right?
You know what?
How do you get him to calm that down?
The thing that I think I forget all the time, and I'm sure fans forget all the time, is that this is just his second year.
And plus he sat out a year.
Yeah, and he
sat
out
crazy
a year.
That whole year.
Right,
yeah.
And I think back my first 2 years in the NBA, I was top 5 in the NBA in free throws attempted a game. I just went in there reckless in there, and I remember I cracked my ribs. Nick Collison had like sort of undercut me. I cracked my ribs. I was getting injured and stuff like that. And then I got the mid-range, you know, and just started pulling up. I'll still go in there now, you know, depending on the game situation, but just being able to stop in the middle of the lane and shoot it before the defense gets to me to put you on the floor and stuff like that. So he's only scratching the surface of what he's going to be, which is
so
scary.
He's still in that young horse running around the wilderness, so happy stage.
He's just unbelievable. And his Karan Butler is funny because we're at practice all the time, and Karan say he just get tired sometimes watching him and DJ jump around the rim.
Right.
But that's why I keep saying he's going to continue to grow, and once he grows a little bit, he'll be unstoppable.
Well, I always watch him, like, even in pregame warm-ups, he'll do dunk. I'm like, Blake, you have maybe, 52,000 jumps in your knees before your knees are like, hey, I'm done.
I always say that,
save
too.
some of those jumps,
I always
man.
say that. I only have maybe a few thousand jumps left. You know, they're numbered, but...
Does it look like he could develop that mid-range jumper?
No question. His shot looks great. I think for him it's just all about confidence. I think a lot of times we have more confidence in his shooting than him and stuff like that. But
it's open because everyone's playing 4 feet off him. Yeah. They don't want to get embarrassed. The other thing is he's only played 110 games total,
and that's a credit to him, and it shows how exciting he's been in such a short amount of time that everyone expects something great every night.
Oh yeah, everything. The Clipper fans are always oh, Blake doesn't do this, Blake doesn't do that.
He's so consistent with delivering it, though.
Exactly. Yeah. Even me, he'll lay the ball up sometimes. What are you doing? That is not right.
I do think he, out of all the good players, I think he plays, if you had a stat, playing the hardest for 100% of the game. He doesn't take plays off ever.
He doesn't, and that's one of the biggest things that I've learned being a teammate of his is how hard he plays every night. And playing against him last year, when he go flying through the air, I was the guy on the other teams don't let him do that. Don't let him do that.
Hit him.
And now I'm that guy that's protecting him because I see it on a nightly basis that guys they don't want to be embarrassed, you know, and I'm constantly, you know, trying to stay on the officials and stuff like that about protecting him because he does play hard.
Well, that's been my favorite thing about watching you, just in person. It's so much different in person than TV. The thing that fascinates me about you is you know what's going on with the 5 guys in the other team, your 4 guys that are out there, and the 3 refs. And you have 12 relationships going on at the same time as the game's going. And it's like a total, Isaiah was like that. I just think certain point guards are like that. He's a Washington Wizards fan. We talk about John Wall, is he going to get it? Is part of it just in your DNA? Can you get that? Can you learn how to do that?
You can get it. You can get it because I just watch so much, and I understand that it really is a game, and every game calls for something different. So you may have different officials. This is so crazy, but you know when a guy's shooting a free throw, you can't stand inside the 3-point line, right? Or it's a violation. Yeah. So there's really no difference in standing inside the 3-point line and standing with your foot over the line, right? Either way, it's a violation,
right?
You know, and so over the course of the game, you know, DJ is not the best free throw shooter. Blake has had his struggles. So guys in the NBA, they get comfortable and they step on that line and their foot is over the line.
Yeah.
So I'll point it out to an official.
I've seen you do it.
Yeah, seriously, if he misses this, we should get another shot.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a violation.
I get the feeling at these games, the officials are always oh God, I got Chris today. Chris going to be doing my job for me.
Because it seems very small, but that one point, that one free throw may be the difference in us winning that game.
The stuff, I don't mean to kiss your ass, but the stuff that he does, for instance, it drives me nuts when there's 34 seconds left in the quarter.
2 for 1.
You know the 2 for 1. 5 players in the league get it, and that's it. But they'll pass the ball to roll to midcourt. He won't touch it, and then it gets it. And the other team every time has no idea that you're immediately going to go to the rim. He just gets it, boom, boom, boom. You get it, and all of a sudden there's 30 seconds left. But it's the little stuff like that. And I watch these games, and you'd be amazed how many guys just have no idea.
I watch games at home every night when I'm not playing, and I'll look at that clock. Because when it gets to 1:45, 1:30, I'm starting to manage
possessions.
You know, how's it go? Because if it's 34 seconds left, and the other team has the ball, I always tell my teammates, pick up full court.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you use 10 seconds
Right.
so that you don't get a 2-for-1 on me. And
Right.
the thing, too, is managing it and not taking a bad shot, too, when you're trying to get a 2-for-1 because you just wasted a possession.
Well, the other thing you do that was a total Isaiah thing was first 3 quarters and 4 minutes, everyone else gets theirs. Last 8 minutes, now you're going to start taking over a little bit, and you'll pick your spots. Is that partly to get the guys involved, partly to save your body for the last quarter? Like, what's the strategy
It's
there?
definitely not to save my body. A lot of times it's to make sure my teammates get involved. You know, since I came in to the NBA, I've always had the ball in my hands a lot. You know, and some guys are okay with it, and some guys, you just never know how your teammates feel about it, you know, because I have the ball for just about the whole possession, sort of like Jeremy Lin does now, you know, and so I try to make sure my teammates get involved because you never know at the end of the game when I am going to have the ball, those guys got to know that you're a willing passer,
Right.
you know, and so I've realized that I can pretty much get a shot whenever I want to, you know, so I have to make sure everybody else stays in tune.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. Even that Spurs game, it looked like, I was like, Chris doesn't have it today. Parker's kind of killing us. And then all of a sudden you scored like 12 straight.
I didn't have it that day either. I couldn't make a shot. I couldn't make a shot.
Who's the best team you played this year? You've played everybody at this point. Or have you played Miami too.
Best team that we played, I don't know, it's a few teams. Chicago is really good defensively. I like their team. But San Antonio is one of those teams that I've played against 4 times every year. They win my division, and they're so underappreciated. You know,
smart.
And I understand it because I played against them in the playoffs. I play against them all the time, and that is not a team that you really want to see in the playoffs out of everybody. Because I know Timmy real well. Me and Tony are real good friends, and they.
You could have been a good Spur, I think. I think you would have fit in with that group.
Oh, wow.
They
Seems
are
like you're kind
cerebral.
of guys. Yeah, cerebral.
They are very cerebral, and when Manu gets back and stuff like that, and the guys that they bring in with their team, they just fit in.
Yeah,
and
very seamless.
And Pop is an amazing coach.
Let's talk about this stupid Lakers team that we don't like. You already don't like these guys. I could tell. It's definitely Robbie. What's up with McRoberts and Blake? There's some sort of weird. Every game they almost get in a fight, but it really feels like. If that's a playoff series, that could be one of the great random playoff series ever because there's real bad blood on both sides.
We're rooting for it.
Yeah, it would definitely be intense. And like I said, once I first got here, everyone talks about this Lakers-Clippers rival, but a rival is when both teams win every now and then.
It's more of a feud. It's not a rivalry.
You got to call it something because we haven't won too many times, but it's fun. Just the energy when you come into the gym when that game is played. Both teams know what's at stake, but at the end of the day, it comes down to winning playoff games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got, I'm sure you know this, but LA's got a lot of transplants, a lot of like casual sports fans. Like, there is an opportunity here for the Clippers to kind of seize a lot of that Laker territory, and I think the Lakers can sense that a little bit. Which is what adds to that fuel. Plus, you were supposed to go there, then it fell through.
Yeah, I'm sure that had nothing to do with it.
You and Gasol, you got into it the last game a little bit.
Just friendly conversation.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun. It's fun because you know, it's 2 totally different games too, and I knew that coming in as a visitor. When you play against the Clippers, you know, lights are on, it's exciting. You got Clipper Darrell up there telling you how ugly you are. It's so nice to have him on my side now, by the way.
Now you're not ugly anymore.
And then when you play the Lakers, you know, it's so dim and it's like a Broadway musical, you know, and it's like you're playing in 2 totally different buildings.
What do you think the biggest hole in the team is right now? Do you feel like you have one? For me, I think it's 2 guards with size on the other team. Like, let's say Manu. Even Manu got hurt in that game, but, like, let's say Manu gets hot.
Right.
Who guards Manu on the Clips? You don't have that 2-guard with size. That seems like the biggest hole. Would you agree?
Yeah, but Randy Ford has really good size to be a 2-guard, and he's a really good defender. So
all right.
he can do that, and I've guarded Manu at times, too. So we have that versatility. We just got to continue to get better defensively.
Kobe, Caron Butler can guard. for whatever reason, it's like a really good matchup for him.
Right.
I guess because they played together. Yeah, they're on the same team.
Karan's a great defender too. So, but when it comes to players like Cole, KD, all those different type players, it's not one person.
Right.
You know, it's a team. It's a team that has to defend those guys.
Tell me about you had a Reggie Evans, quirky.
I saw what you said about our guys too.
Which one? What did I say? Was it good or bad?
Who'd you say we had it? Reggie Evans.
Reggie Evans and Kenyon.
Kmart. Yeah.
Two
guys.
Two
that,
tough guys.
You know what's funny is that throughout my career, for the most part, you know, whenever somebody puts me on the floor, you know, I take up for myself.
Right.
You know, I've always been like that in college. That's who I am. I had an older brother growing up. We fought all the time. So David West did it for me in New Orleans and stuff like that. I never had like a Shaq or that enforcer. It's nice to have those type guys on my team now. You know, nobody's really taking a shot at me this year. Probably need to go in the lane a little bit more to get that. But it's nice to know that if I do get hit, I got those guys now that's not going to let that be okay.
I went to, I forget, it was Kenyon's first home game. And he hadn't even come in yet. He's on the bench. And somebody did something on the Wizards that he didn't like. He's yelling at him. They're doing a lot of like, okay, I'll see you out there. I'm like, this is going to be fun. I like Kenny Martin. Reggie Evans, like, it was good.
Yeah, they don't play. They don't play at all. And Reggie Evans was one of those guys that, you know, when Coach came to practice, was talking to me and Chauncey about different guys that we could add to the team that were out there. And he said a few names. I had never talked to Reggie Evans off of the court before in my life. And that shows you the respect that I have for him. When Coach mentioned his name, I was like, Reggie Evans. I was like, he plays hard.
Great chemistry guy.
Yeah.
He's like, you have after the warm-ups, we call him the chemists.
Yeah.
He's a good chemist. He's got a handshake and a hug for everybody.
Yeah, for everybody. And you need those type guys. And somebody who doesn't care about scoring. Yeah. You need somebody who's going to lay out there every night. And that shows the character of somebody. Like, I don't know him personally, but I was like, I would love to have him on my team.
And plus now you have two adult males coming off the bench, Kenyon and Reggie. Those are like two professional male adults.
I have a little bit of an unfair question, because you've only been with this team 30-some games now. How do you feel about this team versus some of those New Orleans teams that were really good, really successful? How do you feel this one compares? Like I said, it's early.
Yeah, right, I'm trying to think. We definitely have more of an inside presence here, you know, because D West was 17-foot assassin.
Right.
You know, so that's probably one of the biggest differences, is knowing that you had that pick and pop guy every time down. It's going to go. But Blake is so dynamic and he commands a double team every time. If you don't double him, you're going to have a problem.
Did you see, obviously you were playing, you saw it. The Spurs were just like, Blake gets the ball, boom, two guys. Just running full speed at him. They
were
just
coming from the top,
and
then they changed it up and started coming from the bottom.
Yeah, and he didn't like it too much, but then he eventually got used to it. But
yeah, so that's up to us too, because when D West got it going, he had to get doubled too. But it's different for me now playing with a guy like Blake who has to get doubled every night. You know, so we have the ability to be like that team, those tems.
I heard through the grapevine you may have taken Eric Bledsoe under your wing and enrolled him in Chris Paul basketball camp. Is this true?
Bled is my guy. I love him to death. He's a great kid. Plays unbelievably hard. And
he changed that Spurs game.
That's what I was about to say. That was the best feeling for me in that Spurs game, when I couldn't get it going and he came in the game for me. And this is something a lot of people don't know. It was right there in that third quarter or something. It came out of a timeout, and I didn't expect to go back in for a while, maybe not even the rest of the game. And Bled came over and was like, and Coach was like, Chris, get Bled. I was like, for what? You know, he really changed that game, and he was like, CP, I'm tired. I was like, well, you need to suck it up.
Right.
You need to suck it up and get out there, and I was happy to see him.
He changed it physically and got the crowd into it, but, I mean, the thing with, sometimes you look at some of these guys and you just think like, God, that dude's a specimen.
And
Bledsoe's a specimen. You look at him, you're like, could he be a tight end in
he
football?
He walks around all day like he just woke, like he was asleep at night just doing curls or doing push-ups and he didn't even know. He is that strong.
That's why I've written like 14 fake trades in my column where Ray Allen goes to the Clippers and the Celtics get Bledsoe back. Yeah, I want Bledsoe on the Celtics. Can we get Bledsoe?
No, you can't have it.
No, we want him. Let's make a trade right now.
He spent some time with me during the summer and stuff like that, and I'm glad to see him getting healthy because he deserves it.
Well, he is somebody that, physically you throw out Kenyon and Blake and DeAndre and Bledsoe, like these are like, athletes.
Freak of an athlete. I had to play against him last year.
Yeah. So even without Chauncey, you still feel like this is a team that can win the title?
No question.
Yeah.
No question. It just made our job.
Because Randy stepped into a lot of what Chauncey was doing. I mean, he's not going to fill the leadership void.
Right. It just made our jobs a little bit harder, obviously, but we're definitely capable of winning the championship. And I tell people, with Chauncey, to me, it was a lot.
Right.
It was a lot. That was my guy, and we were ready to roll. It just makes our job a little bit tougher. Everybody has to step up. I told Blake, I think it was a game maybe in Cleveland after Chauncey went down, and it was something that Monty Williams said to me in D West last year. He came and brought us in after we lost a couple of games and was like, I need more. We were both averaging 20 points or something like that, and he was like, it's not enough, I need more. And so I told Blake, for me and you, we're going to have to do more.
Does it make you sad what happened in New Orleans? I mean, they're like 7-24, something like that. You obviously cared about those fans.
I definitely care about those fans, care about those guys on the team, coach, and stuff like that. It was very emotional leaving. Even when the trade went through that night, flying out of New Orleans and knowing that I wasn't going to be there. This morning, my wife was showing me pictures of our condo and stuff like that in New Orleans. So it's tough, but those people in New Orleans always know that I have a special place in my heart.
Yeah. So this worked out. I'm glad you're a Clipper and not a Laker.
It did. Me too.
It's better for you, I feel like. On the Lakers, you're always going to be on Kobe's team. This has become your team. I feel like.
It's our team.
But I mean, it's like,
I think it's exciting just because, I'm sure you heard about it, like when we went and played in Portland. It's like we hadn't won here since such and such. When we played against Utah, we won here once since this new arena has been built.
Right.
So it's fun for me to play in those situations and to cancel them out.
Well, plus you win a title in the Lakers. It becomes the 17th title they've ever won or whatever. You make the finals with the Clippers. It's the greatest that's ever happened in the history of the franchise.
Exactly, but we don't want to make it,
Well, listen, I want to be going to those games.
Ricky Bobby said if you don't finish first.
Chris Paul, a pleasure. Good luck with the rest of the season.
Thank you guys so much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming up.
No problem.
All right, pleased to welcome my dad's favorite player.
That's real nice.
Mr. Dave Cowens. It's true. My dad, season ticket holder starting the 73-74 season.
Oh, yeah, that was a good year to come in.
Yeah, you won. And he carried me in. I was like 4. So I count that as my first title, even though I don't remember one thing that happened. But you played for the Celtics, I think, from 69 to 80.
Well,
right?
The 70 season.
69, 70 to...
70, 71.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then through 80. 81.
And then you left.
I did.
And you basically left a ring on the table.
What the hell? You already got a couple.
80, 81. I mean, that team would have been unbelievable. We traded for McHale and Parrish.
Yeah, went through training camp with them.
Was Maravich in the training camp too?
No, he had retired.
Oh, yeah.
He had retired.
So that Celtics team won in 81 and also could have had you and Maravich on it potentially.
Potentially, yeah.
Would have had been like 7 Hall of Famers on that team. So you walked away relatively early. Mm-hmm. Usually guys stay too long. You stayed too early. Then you had the brief comeback with Milwaukee. But
yeah,
what I remember, like you just said, the fire wasn't there anymore. But
correct.
What was going on there?
That's it. Just I do basketball. Been running basketball camp since 1972. So I would get out of like one time we won in '76.
Yep.
We had because that thing went until the first week of June.
Yeah.
So I was running a basketball camp with Rudy Tomjanovich in Texas. I ran one with Doug Collins in Philadelphia. I ran one with my high school basketball coach in Kentucky. Then I would run 6 weeks in Boston myself. So I went from the parade, flew down to Texas, and got there a day late, and then basketball camps all summer long, to supplement the income, because, we obviously didn't make the kind of cash the guys are making today. But now the only reason they run basketball camps is because they're somebody in their posse or their manager or somebody wants to pick up some extra cash in the summertime. So, this is what I did. So it was basketball all the time, and take a month off and then get back to training camp, And I just think some of the challenges were gone. I thought about 10 years was going to be about my career anyway, is what I thought. So time to move on. I knew the team was in good shape because I went through training camp with them. I knew Parrish was there, McHale was there, and Bird, obviously, and they had, a good backcourt, Tiny Archibald, and Chris Ford, and a bunch of guys like that. So I said, hey, you guys really don't need me. You can get it. And actually, when they retired my number that year, I presented a championship cup to Harry Mangurian,
the owner at the time. Yeah.
I said, you guys are going to win the championship. I predicted it in whatever it was, February or something.
Wow. Well, you also played at with an intensity that probably was not sustainable for more than a decade.
Well,
that's what I grew up watching.
I would have continued to play the same way, but I was starting to get, little things with your back and then your feet and all the other differences, just on the wear and tear. Yeah. I played a lot of minutes. I was lucky to play a lot of minutes and get a chance to be active all those years, and a contributing force, with the team.
Well, I remember, growing up, going to those games, the way you played, and then, after we won in '76, I say we like I was on the team, just to make sure. And then we brought in some guys that maybe didn't have that same intensity, and it was a really strange 2 years before Bird showed up, where all of a sudden the Celtics stunk, and we had this team of mismatched pieces. And you actually, after the '76 title, you took a leave of absence, which this was 35 years ago, but. I mean, if that happened now, man, the internet would go crazy with this. You'd be like, what's this guy doing? He's not playing? Where is he? And then, so let's go through
probably
this.
Probably wouldn't have done it if it was nowadays, with so much, intensity on what everybody's doing and the following and all the business. It would have been way too distracting.
Well, the two most upset people that we let Paul Silas go were you and my dad. My dad still talks about it 35 years later. He feels like we would have won in '77.
Because he and I worked pretty well together. As an inside-outside type of I could bring guys out a little bit, and get the centers watching and open it up for him to do what he did well, was offensive rebound. And, we both really didn't care about scoring that much. We liked to just play the game. And,
and he was a leader,
defense and rebounding was the way. That's what we really did for the team more than score.
Yeah.
And Paul was really good in the locker room with all the guys. He was strong personality there, and had some real success behind his name as well. So that helped.
So he leaves, and you're kind of burned out, and you're disappointed that they got rid of him, and a whole bunch of things, and you just take a leave of absence. Is it true you drove a cab? Is that story apocryphal or true?
No, that happened later on. But I knew it was all going to get blown in together because. Who really cares to a certain degree, but it happened in a relatively short period of time. But no, when I came back, then we were in the playoffs with San Antonio. It was still when they had those best of three.
Oh yeah.
Early on, and so we were right around that time. And a friend of mine came to Boston. I said, "I'll show you around Boston." I got a cab, and we drove around, picked people up, and had a nice time over for one night. That's all I did.
Oh, so it was a one-night thing.
Yeah, it just so happened that. They found out on the shortwave that I was driving a cab.
Well, can you go back to the part where you picked up a cab? Would you just randomly got into it?
There's independent cabs you can go on. Like for $35, you just drive a cab and then you fill it up with gas and you make tips and you give it back to them at the end of the day.
You can still do this?
I know you could do it then. I don't know if you could do it now.
I don't know if you can do that now.
You could just
because I would have done that.
As long as you had a driver's license.
Yeah. So. You're picking up passengers, and you're the most famous player the Celtics have at that point.
And I picked up people, they didn't know who I was.
Really?
Yeah, my first fare was a guy from New York. I picked him up around South Station. He wanted to go someplace in the back base. I took him the long way.
Well, so the one thing you did do was you worked for, what was it, Suffolk Downs? The racetrack?
I interviewed down there. I was going to start working down there.
You just wanted an office job? Huh? Was it like an office job?
Yeah, it would have been the deal with the management of the track, and I had owned a standardbred horse at one point in time with a buddy of mine that I went to school with, and he had a stable down at Soda Downs near Columbus. And so I had sold mine, and I had been involved in preserving it, working on a project to preserve the Prowse Farm, which was a training area in a historic piece of property near the Blue Hills in Boston. And so I was involved in sort of the racing business in a different way. So I thought maybe that's what I'd like to do. So I kind of went down there and talked to people, and I decided I didn't want to do that.
And then you eventually came back.
Yeah, 2 months.
Yeah.
And
that actually
went to Florida, had some fun.
Oh, you went to Florida too? I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
What were we doing in Florida?
Nobody's ever supposed to know anything that I do when I'm not playing.
That's true.
That's the way I look at it anyway.
So, you guys won in 74 and 76.
Correct.
In 73, you should have won.
Well, we had a chance. I mean, it's like anything else, like, hey, should Miami have won last year? Well, they had a chance. They just didn't do it. So you get to the point where at least you're competing for a championship, and then things happen. People get hurt. It's like if Lucius Allen doesn't get hurt in 74 when we played the Bucks, we might not have won that one because he was a big part of it, And then we played in 76. Phoenix upsets Golden State to get to the finals. Well, we couldn't beat Golden State that year. We had a really hard time with them, just matchups, and it's just styles and coaches and
So you felt like you won the right amount for that era?
Well, I thought we were good. Actually, the 72-73 season when we only lost 14 games, we were the best team in the league. That was the year I was the MVP. And we didn't lose any road games. We lost more home games than we did road games. So the road games were not a big deal for us. That was the year. But then Havlicek hurt his shoulder against the Knicks. We go 7 games with them, and they end up. We knew whoever won the East was going to win it because the year before LA had won it, but that year we handled them pretty well. So did the Knicks. So they went out there and beat LA for the championship.
My dad still feels like we should have won 4 straight, and he hates Nick Witherspoon, and we're not allowed to talk about his name in the house.
Yeah, he
just got hot against us.
I mean, it's a basketball, it's sports. You just don't know what's going to happen, and you can't just go and say that's a win during the season. You can't mark them off because when you start doing that, you're going to lose those games that you anticipate winning. Because it's not easy. As much as people think, in the NBA, guys aren't working hard, blah, blah, blah. Well, as being a player and a coach, if you don't prepare your team and the guys don't come out right, the worst team in the league can beat the best team in the league if you don't pay attention to details. And if you don't go out and push yourself and work hard, because the talent is there to beat you every night.
So you come into the league in 70.
Correct.
You missed Russell, but you did play against Wilt and Kareem. You played against Wilt later in his career, but he was still. You had Kareem his whole prime. It's basically like at his peak.
I wish could have played against Russell, and I wish I could have played against Jordan. Those were the 2 guys that I missed on both ends.
Even Wilt at that advanced stage was still pretty dominant, but not scoring as much as he used to, obviously. But what was it like to go against him?
I was happy that he was into passing. Instead of trying to dunk on my face all the time,
How strong was he, though? You're 6'8", 6'8.5".
Yeah, he's a strong guy. He was probably, I look at him, he's probably playing about 275, 280, but, he's slim, he's not heavy, and he was quite a specimen for me, to play against. And, if he gets the ball in the block, he's going to have his way with me for the most part. A couple of dribbles is going to back you down. And there wasn't a lot of that all helping out defense the way it is now. It's like, okay, if I had Kareem one night or Wilt and they got it going, well, they just let you do that, and then you try to get some of those points back on the other end. Everybody else did their job on their guys. Hopefully you get a win.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of running around and going doubling down and all the other different things. And, you just played everybody individually and talked and helped and whatever on pick and rolls and stuff. But it was not, game wasn't played defensively like it is now because we really didn't spend that much time thinking about defense. as much as they do now. We didn't have all the modalities to break people down and use the tape and things like
Everybody
that.
had two coaches, right? I mean, it was
two coaches,
coach
and
assistant.
the guy would, in the beginning of the season, the guy had, the reel-to-reel, and he spent all summer splicing and making a highlight thing or whatever he wanted to do to show you. I mean, his job was, quite intensive during the off season.
Yeah. Kareem, who I think is now historically underrated, because people remember, like, basketball became so much bigger in the 80s, and people remember older, balding, like skyhook, and that's about it. Kareem was like, I mean, you look at his stats.
Didn't the Lakers win 5 championships in the 80s?
Well, people feel like that's Magic's team, though, which is weird, because...
Well, Magic doesn't win 5 championships.
I agree with you.
Well, no, it's a fact. I mean, that's just the way it is. Because, Kareem was that guy that you had to worry about him, and he was always that ability. They just throw it up in the air, he'll get it, and he'll make something good happen with the basketball, besides for playing on the outside. And, Magic is a great player, and they had all those good shooters. They had all these different guys running around. But, without Kareem, they're not going to win 5 championships.
Well, what was your game plan trying to stop the most unstoppable shot anybody's ever had?
I don't think you really think about stopping anybody. I think you just use defensive principles, or you think about percentages. If he shoots from here, it's probably he's going to shoot 50% plus. If he's shooting from over here, maybe it's 47%.
Yeah.
And you just, you try to figure that out. In the beginning, to give you an example, basically Kareem was always down on that left block, so he'd come in with his right hand skyhook. All right. That was what he had, that and the dunk. Okay.
Yep.
Then he started developing a little bit of a turnaround shot. Then he went on the other side and started shooting the skyhook on the baseline side, from the right-hand block on the way down. Okay, but when I played in the beginning, he was pretty much right there. So I tell the guys out front, force the ball onto the other side. So now he comes to the ball in the middle of the block, in the middle of the paint. I can body him and get him out, and like work on him a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you let him just get the ball down there, because I couldn't front him, I could side him and all this other stuff, it's almost like you had to get him off, but it didn't really, off the block, but it didn't really matter, because they throw the ball, the free throw line extended to the wings, Dandridge, and they'd run Oscar to the corner, strong side. So you had Oscar, Dandridge, and Jabbar. So no matter what I did, if I played him for this angle on this side, they'd throw it to Oscar, and then he'd throw it to baseline, and he'd go dunk. If I played behind him, he's doing his thing. If I played on one side, so I'd say just throw it over, just really force him to go on that side. And then I said, try not to let Oscar get the ball. What's he going to do? He's in the corner. If he backdoors, we're there in the block. You can't get open, so don't let him get the ball. Now I can be more aggressive on it. So that's the kind of things that we did. Yeah. But meanwhile, he averaged 40 a game on me my rookie year. So we tried, but, the next year I think he went down to like 35. But, but if I'm getting 20, 22, matching him in rebounds, maybe Havlicek's outscoring his guy by the same amount that Jabbar's outscoring me by.
Was he the best player you ever played against?
Most dominant scorer that I ever played against.
Who was the best player?
Well,
or you don't want to pick?
Well, I don't know that you can say there's any one best player, but I would say he is, because he created more problems for me than anybody else that I played against in that position.
Who was the second best player then?
See, I don't know.
Because you played against...
I'd say Elvin Hayes was tough for me.
Elvin Hayes,
I used to match on him quite a bit. I'd rather play on Unseld, but Elvin Hayes would play outside so much, that I had to go out, and I used to play against him. Bob McAdoo used to wear me out too, because those guys, people were coming and setting picks on me.
Yeah.
As opposed to my guys setting picks, they flipped it on me. So now I'm the guy that's fighting over picks. And when you're a center, you're not used to doing that. That's
right.
But McAdoo, he could stroke it, man.
He's the guy from that era that would have been really interesting if you just put him in a time machine and stuck him in now, for the way the game is now. Or
any player.
Perimeter
look at the Knicks teams, all right?
Yeah.
When they had DeBusschere and Bradley, Frazier and Monroe. DeBusschere and Bradley had better range than Frazier and Monroe.
Yeah.
Frazier and Monroe were in the paint guys, free throw line in, a little bit farther. But that's what they did. DeBusschere, Bradley, Lucas, they're out at the three-point line, easy. So you break the clock down, all of a sudden they throw it out to one of your power forwards, and he's shooting one from the corner, which everybody loves now, at corner three, and he's out there shooting and knocking it down. So different kind of a team. It was interesting to play against them.
DeBusschere with a three-point line would have been very interesting, because when I was watching tape, when I was working on my book and I was watching those Knicks tapes, they were shooting threes, but they counted as twos, but they were like 24-footers.
Oh, yeah. A lot of guys had that kind of range, but you know the percentages are much lower if you don't put that extra point with it. So it doesn't. You want that shot to be taken, and that's what the defense is planning on.
Maravich, I think the three-point line really would have made a difference for him too, because it seemed like he was shooting like 7 a game from 25 feet, and they were counting for twos.
I played against Pete in college. We played him up at the Milwaukee Classic, and in the consolation game, score was 130-100. In a college game, no three-pointer.
Wow.
Yeah, I had like 30-some rebounds. He had, you know, I mean, he'd just come over half court and throw one up. You know, he's shooting at 40 feet at times. So, yeah, it's a pretty interesting game.
The era that you played in, guys settled stuff on the court, definitely more physical, more fighting, all that stuff. Guys weren't as friendly as they are now. Do you see this stuff where these guys are hugging each other all the time and like, you push somebody, it's a flagrant foul? Like, coming from your era, what do you think of this stuff?
I would say just one of the things you said about the game being more physical. I don't think it is. I think the game now is more physically because the players are bigger, the players are stronger, the players jump higher and they run faster and they. I mean, you know, we didn't have all the alley-ooping and all the other different things. And you know the way they set picks, they come out, boom. I mean, it's a quick bam, and all of a sudden you're. You know, there's if you go back and look at the way Russell and Chamberlain played each other in the post, it was almost like they were backed off. They almost weren't even touching each other. And then with me, it was more, okay, work the guy over before he gets into the block, and then you respect the fact that he got the position on you, but you try to do your work done early. Nowadays, it's these guys are so big when they run into each other. You know, the impact is much greater now than it was when I played. I think the friendliness, the fact that, you know, I think a lot of these guys have played AAU. They have relationships formed before they even got to the pros.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, that's supersedes what's going on as, you know, competitors for different teams when you have a relationship with a guy. Yeah, I mean, I can vividly remember after we won the championship in Milwaukee against the Bucks walked off the floor and we walked off the floor. There was no one went over and shook anybody's hand. We didn't stay on the court. We left, did our partying in the locker room and left, and we went home on a charter.
I'm glad you mentioned this because
on a regular plane.
It's the most subdued championship celebration I think that exists.
Well, they all were that way. I don't think anybody
you guys
really
won the title, just like, hey, and then you went in the locker room.
Yeah, all right, and run off and drink a little champagne, throw the coach in the shower. That was it.
You were in a couple scraps that I witnessed, including I was at a game. I must have been like 4th or 5th grade. You and Tree Rollins were behind the play.
Yeah.
Everybody runs up, and you guys get into it, and it was like,
I was trying to get to him. He's a big guy.
4 or 5 seconds.
I had to jump to hit him.
It was good. You were good in the scraps.
Well, you know, they usually, the nice thing about it, most basketball players are not fighters for the most part, and you just hope that they get broken up in a hurry once you get into them.
What was your best scrap?
The first one I was in, I just with what was his name? Played for Atlanta. He was a big center.
Tom Burleson?
No. He didn't play for Atlanta. He was with Seattle. It was before him. My first year, we played the Atlanta Hawks. Bob Christian. We played the Atlanta Hawks 5 exhibition games, and because they had Pete and I was at Florida State, we played at Florida State. We played down in Jacksonville. We played, but we played them 5 games in a row.
Get a little ornery after 5 games.
And this guy, Bob Christian, for some reason, I don't think he liked me because, I mean, he was like intimidating guy, big, strong guy. Well, I never played against a guy like this. And so the first game, I'm in a scuffle. second game, I went to Havlicek. I said, "Are they all like this? I mean, is this going to every game? It's going to be like a hockey game, you know?" And so he said, "No," he said, "it's just one of those things." So I was kind of relieved to not see them any longer. Plus, they had Bill Bridges and they had Walt Bellamy, two other pretty big, strong guys, you know. And Bob Kaufman was another guy who played for the Buffalo,
Yeah.
and he was a big guy, you know, strong guy, and he just sometimes guys elbow you, they'll test you out, and so you say, hey, you know, do it again, you know, we're gonna have a problem. So, you know, you get into, you know, you start slugging it out, and you have to sort of stand up for yourself because, you know, people will start, you know, they'll just abuse you because they can.
I was at the famous game when Mike Newland flopped.
Yeah.
And the ref didn't call it, and then you chased Mike. You yelled at the ref, and then Mike Newland was like at midcourt or dribbling the ball. I forget what it was, but you ran behind him and you checked him into the scorer's table at full speed, and then you said, "No, that's an effing foul" to the ref.
Yeah.
And got thrown out. But that was one of the great. You didn't get thrown out.
No, that was the neat thing about it.
Oh, I thought you got thrown out.
No, I didn't get thrown out.
What, they just called a foul?
It was a thing. See, what was going on? It was like a strategy to flail your arms and have the ref call foul when you didn't really do anything. So you're posting a guy up, and you expected some of the smaller guys to do it, but it got to the point where the big guys were doing it. So you get the ball and you take a move like that, and the guy behind you goes, "Oh, like that." And the referee's over here out of the corner of his eye, since you only had two refs.
Yeah.
He's looking at you, going, "Oh, foul, charge." Hey, I fouled out enough. I fouled out over 100 games in my career. I couldn't afford to have all these little chippy things
fouls,
going on. It's going to really affect my time on the court. So this thing happened, and Newland did the whole thing, and then so next play down, I said, okay. So he comes off, he's dribbling like this. So I just sort of took a beeline for him, and I didn't run behind him and cheap shot him. I came right at him like this and knocked him down. He went sliding on the floor. So I walked up and that's a foul to the referee, and it was Jake O'Donnell, and he knew I was right, and he didn't throw me out.
I thought you got thrown out.
No, I did not get thrown out of that game.
I was there because we sat at midcourt.
Because I had to fight with Bob Kaufman, and we didn't get thrown out of the game.
In the same game, you had a fight with Bob Kaufman?
That's right, and we didn't get thrown out. We didn't get two texts and gone. They just said, okay, Cowins, you got to go get some sutures in your eye because you're bleeding. And Kaufman's, face is all red and stuff like that. So I went in, and we both were able to continue to play in the game.
Different era.
That's what happens,
Guys settled stuff on the court back then. Now it's like a big negotiation. They're instant replay.
And I'll
is
tell
this
you
foot
what
of the
happened
line?
for a while, and it's sort of settled in now, and I'm glad they did it. But for a while, what happened is because guys knew that you would not retaliate, a lot of cheap shot guys got out there, and a lot of guys that would all the taunting, this stuff was going on, dunking and looking at the guy, I'm tough and all that stuff. Where before, if you dunked on somebody, you showed them up, you were going to find out about it in a couple trips. Somebody was going to get you somehow and sneak you and hurt you. So you said, okay, I'll dunk the ball, but it's just a play, and I'll go down. It wasn't all this trying to show people up. It was sort of a respect, almost like what you would do on the playground, because the playground,
you don't do this.
You're not going to do that and really show somebody up because, you might get shot.
Are you amused that Tommy Heinsohn has become this totally different identity person for like two generations of Celtics fans? They know him as the crazy Celtics analyst.
He and Johnny Most were pretty good buddies, so I think Tommy's doing a pretty good impersonation of Johnny Most over the last few years.
Celtic fans under 30 find it impossible to believe that he coached two title teams.
Yeah. I liked him as a coach. He played me, and he designed some offense. It's kind of a spread offense that I used to use. Some of the teams that I coached, give guys a chance to play from the outside and spread things out. And he had some good ideas, and we used a lot of the other plays that Red had used all through the ages as well. But I thought he and John Killalay, Tommy was kind of doing all the offense. He let John Killalay do a lot of the defense, and I thought we had good players. We had represented the NBA in the All-Star game sometimes with, Havlicek, Silas, JoJo White, and myself. We'd have four guys from the same team on the All-Star team. And you look over there, you got, DeBusschere, Reed, Frazier. You know, so you might have on the whole team, I'd have 3 teams represented almost, you know.
You know, he was the first coach I grew up with, and I just naturally assumed that coaches yelled at every single call an official did, and then we would have coaches after that. It'd be like, that guy's not yelling at that call. What's wrong with him?
Tommy
and he would go crazy.
Sometimes he would.
He got kicked out all the time.
Not that many, not as many as you think. But because, you know, he had a job to be there on the court, and I don't think he got kicked out of many. Might have, should have got kicked out of more.
Or at least got the tease.
But I mean, I remember times when he'd kick his shoe, and his shoe would fly up in the stands, and the people wouldn't give it back to him. Or, you know, he knocked a water cooler over. He used to be on the end, and the water's all over the place. And we told him at one point in time, and we said, Tommy, mostly Havlicek would talk to him. He said, Tommy, you got to cool it, man. They're taking it out on us.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they can't do anything to you, but, you know, we're like, and the referees back then, they were all veteran guys. And they would, I mean, I've had them do it to me, Richie Powers and different guys like that. They would make bad calls just so they would get you irate so they could throw you out. I mean, I saw it happen.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me. But that was their way of handling things and being in charge. But then they'd cut you a break, too. They thought you needed a break.
I remember going to one game. I was little, and I'm going to say it was a playoff game. But Tommy got kicked out, and Red was always sitting, you know, and Red decided he was going to go over and get in the huddle. And it was like a big deal. And they felt like, oh, Red's getting up. Oh, Red's going to be in the huddle. It was like, imagine that happened. Like, nobody would ever, like, Pat Riley would never join the Miami huddle. But Red just, like, owned the place.
With Red, that Red actually punched the owner of a team at half court before a game. I mean, you think that's going to happen nowadays? Remember when Red came down? They were playing against maybe it was the Sixers or somebody.
Yeah, it was an exhibition game against Sixers. Yeah.
And she comes down. And Moses Malone comes over. He's going to hit him. He said, "Hit me, I'll own you." But, you know, I mean, it's just different, and it's because there's so much scrutiny now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, people are watching from all over the world. When I first started, you look at the Boston Garden, there's half the horseshoe is empty during games. It wasn't filled up. I mean, come playoff time it would be, and with Russell's teams, their attendance was less than when I played because they went from like 7,000 or 8,000 average, I believe, up to about 12.
Yeah.
During the season, and then when Bird came, they maxed it out at 15. So you know, it was just not what everybody thought. Oh, the Boston Garden's filled all the time because they're winning all the time. But if you went to a Bruins game, they were in the basement. That place was jam packed every night.
You were, I think, the last player coach.
I think so. There's a reason for that. It doesn't work so well.
I
mean, first of all, where do you dress? You change with the players, or you change with the coaches.
How many games? You did like 40 games?
To be before the game.
You did like half a season, right?
Well, we were 2-12 when I took over.
Who got fired, Tommy? Or Satch Sanders? Yeah.
Tommy had got let go the year before. When
so
we had
2-12.
Different guy. We were 2-12. We ended up getting like a 7-game win streak or something like that right away.
When you took over?
Yeah, and then we went on the road, and there was a trade made. McAdoo came to the Celtics.
Oh, that was John White Brown made that trade.
Yeah, and Phyllis
Not
George.
A good trade.
Well, I mean, you think about McAdoo coming. He didn't want to come to the Celtics. He and I were, you know.
You guys are rivals.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden I'm the coach and a player, and he's on. You know, it was a tough position to put him in. But
and we traded 3 number 1s for him. That part didn't help either.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
I know we got.
It was 3 number 1s.
3 number 1s.
Yeah.
But how did we get him back to Detroit?
We traded him to Detroit, and it ended up being the Mikhail Parrish pick. So it all worked out, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it did. Yeah, really, in spades.
So So Red says to you, you're 2-12. Red says to you, we want you to coach the team.
No, he asked me. He says, "What would you think about doing this?" And you got to realize that only the year before I had taken a leave of absence.
Right.
So JoJo White's on the team. He's trying to figure out why are they going to give the job to this guy. You know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a little strange with JoJo, and then me being the coach of JoJo. We were roommates for 7 years, 6 years, you know, whatever it was. And sometimes it doesn't work, you know. I mean, it's just all of a sudden you're the coach. You got to be a different guy. Now you're talking about players' minutes.
Yeah.
And, now you got to talk to them. And say,
well, how did you monitor the minutes when you're playing?
Well, I had Casey Jones and Bob McKinnon with me. So when I wasn't coaching, when I was playing, they were coaching. And when I would come over, then I would get more involved in what was going on, as a coach. But they had specific duties, and so I didn't bother with their duties, as a coach when I was playing. But it's really tough. You get like split, and it's really difficult to do either job well.
Right.
And it's very distracting. It's very distracting because if you're a player coach, the fun is playing.
Yeah.
All right. The coaching, you only get all the bad parts of the coaching when you're the coach and the player. You got to deal with discipline problems. I got, Bad News Barnes was on the team. So
I forgot about that.
And we had a lot of turnover, like 21 some guys on the roster that season. So it was a lot of turnover. We had one guy, Don Smith, changed his name to Abdulaziz. We acquired him on the road and cut him on the same road trip. So he's just he never wore a white uniform.
That's funny.
So
I remember that year.
It was a crazy year.
We went to all those games, and it seemed like every game there was a new guy in the team. Like, who's that guy? What number?
That's right.
Is that Bob Bigelow? Who's Bob Bigelow? There's like a lot of those moments. But
that's right.
So let's talk about Bad News Barnes quickly. This is a good one to end on. So you get bad news. You're the player coach. And this is like the most troubled player in the history of the NBA, probably, at probably the worst point in his life. He shows up. I remember he was wearing the big mink coats when he wasn't playing, right?
I don't know. I don't remember a lot of that.
Like, how do you coach Bad News Barnes?
I guess you don't play him because the guy was an outstanding talent.
Yeah.
I mean, really. And he just had to understand sort of the demons and the different things that were going on with him at that time and the personal decisions he was making. It was sort of taken away from his game. And you had to monitor that. And you just had to discipline him. If he came in, didn't show up or something, or was late, he would say, I can't play tonight. And he was great. I mean, he never argued with you. He understood why you were doing what you were doing. But, it's hard to do a game plan when sometimes when you don't have that consistency. Yeah. And that's all we ask. In the NBA, you play so many games. And I think about the kid Lynn now and all the public pressure that he's getting. And you look at Jason Kidd, he's been in the league for so long. He's gone through all these different things, personal things, trades and whatever. And he's managed to, create a legacy, and his body of work is X. Well, Lynn is just starting. And so as players, you look at a guy, what did he do for a season, extended season? Was he able to be a dominant player, a really good player for a long period of time? There's a lot of guys that do it for a short period of time. And what I'm hoping is that the kid Lynn is able to have a nice career. You know what I mean? That's all I want. I don't want people to say, this guy, and start getting down on him as much as they're getting up on him, because that's what happened. It's all good, and all of a sudden it's all bad.
Right.
And I don't want that to happen to him because he looks like a great kid.
When you played with Barnes, was that the same year you played with Kermit Washington, or was that the year before?
Kermit played there, but I'm not sure which year it was. I don't think I coached when Kermit was there. I think it was the year after, the year before.
Kermit was good for us because we got him after the fight, and you guys together were
actually
actually really
good. Relationship with him. That's why he came, because he went to American, which is down in Washington D.C., where Red, obviously lived and spent a lot of time and did a lot of scouting down in Washington area. That's why he was there.
I remember the owners switched teams, and he got thrown into that, and all of a sudden was on his way to San Diego.
Yeah, there was some confusion about who actually owned the Boston Celtics for
I know, it's crazy,
for a while. Yeah, because it was almost like cabs. They had medallions. So you had this medallion went over here and this one over there, and some players were with it. And I happened to play golf with a guy who was the bookkeeper, the accountant for the teams when Harry Mangurian owned them.
Yeah.
So he knew all the stuff that was going on in the back room in terms of analyzing salaries and contracts and everything else, And he's got some good stories, the real deal, But
So last question, if you could pull anybody, I asked Bird this too, if you could take one guy who's playing now and put him on like the 76 Celtics with you, who would you pick?
There'd be a whole lot of them, man.
Like who's the guy right now that you look at and go,
I'd like to take that 72 to 76 team that we had, and I'd like to play against all the teams that are the best teams in the league right now. That's what I would like to do, instead of taking a player from here and putting him in.
Who wins?
It would have mattered. I don't know, but I think it'd be an interesting. I'd like to see a lot of those teams do that and see. And I'd say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to play with the three-point play for a half and without it for a half.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be interesting.
My thing when they put the three-point play in was I understood the philosophy behind it, but I would like to see it just used in the fourth period.
Oh, so the first three, you don't even
You
get
have to
them.
play it straight. You have to play it like, okay, hey, you start using the big guy a little bit more. You got hook passes, bounce passes, and you're doing all kind of stuff without the ball. And get all the dribbling out of it, which is what the three-point play does. Dribble, penetration, kick, dribble. You see a lot of that, all middle pick and rolls, which we didn't hardly use at all.
Yeah.
You'd get the center more involved. You have different kind of offenses. Each team used to have different offenses. Now everybody's got the same stuff, just different players.
Slash and kick.
It's all middle, it's all pick and roll stuff, A little bit throwing it inside, but not a lot.
Yeah.
And because they're looking to shoot that three, which makes sense. All right, so that's what I would think. And then you give that 12 minutes could give a team that's down 15 at the end of three, give them a chance to get back in the game if they get hot.
Could you have made the three? You didn't have that range, right? You were like 20 feet?
If you practiced it,
you had a 20-footer, though. So you would have to just go back 4 feet.
Anybody that's a good athlete, if you let them practice on something enough, they'll get good at it. But we didn't practice on it.
Yeah.
Why would you? It was a bad shot. I look at now, the guy's going, that's a bad shot.
Right.
But because it's a three, they rationalize it that it's a three. But it's still a bad shot.
Yeah.
Because nobody was on the boards. They cranked it up, bad time of the game. But so it's kind of gotten into that in my mind. Too many people are taking too many of them.
Dave Cowens, a pleasure to have you on the BS Report.
Yeah,
it was
my
fun.
pleasure.
Thanks for coming on.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNRadio.com.
Peace out.
Unfortunately, that's it for Bill today, and football's regular season is over. But don't worry, there's still plenty to celebrate, because Subway Footlong Nation Appreciation is on. To thank you for making footlongs famous, Subway's giving away thousands of prizes every day, including free footlongs for life. Head to Subway and grab a 30-ounce drink or Doritos Nacho Cheese Chips for game codes. Then, visit Subway.com online or on your mobile device to enter your code for a chance to win big. We're giving away a prize a minute, so hurry in. Subway, where winners eat.